Okay. So, welcome, Nancy. And basically, we're doing Nature's Way, and there are changes yet again afoot on this Artsy platform. So I'm excited about the fact that Artsy is coaching the Shim Art Network Gallery as to how to maximize their viewing. So when we get into that next phase for Artsy, I'll be sharing that with everyone. But essentially, Nature's Way will be on view on Artsy from September 15th to February 15th. And from that point on, your portfolio remains on Artsy into perpetuity. You know, your works are available there and you will be able to show them out in the world as well as keep them on Artsy. The only conflict that I see that artists can encounter in terms of who do I work with and how and when is if a gallery that you're really interested in having represent your work and connecting better with, if they have restrictions, just let me know about those restrictions. One way that we deal with it, and we deal with it in a myriad of ways, but one way is that I simply take the price down and we put contact gallery if anyone wants to inquire about the work. So it sits there riding on the side for you as it is doing right now. And an inquiry could come in during the course of that show, or it could come in after. So it wouldn't necessarily conflict with that gallery when they're showing the work in person. Another approach that you could take is to say, Ellen, the gallery wants the work just shown with them, and this is an exclusive agreement, in which case we're in an agreement on Artsy for your work for 1 year. So I would simply say, that's fine. We could take the work and remove it from the site temporarily, and we could show it in person. You could show it in person, just not have it on Artsy. If they say, Nancy, we're representing you, you need to only be with us exclusively, then in that case, you know, I would honor that push that you're trying to see happen in your career, and we would simply close our agreement and move on, and your work would come off of our Artsy site.
Okay, and that was where I was confused. And you know what, I see you're saying that for 6 months it's what we're sending now would be put up for 6 months, and then unless we let you know, then we need to, in other words, we need to let you know if it's going to be shown someplace else or that we want it taken down or whatever. I just wasn't sure, you know, what our relationship would be, and also what's fair financially too.
Absolutely. And the thing that I would simply ask is that we keep to that 1 year agreement, that I be allowed to show it online for the year. And again, if there's a conflict that's temporary in nature, we can work with that. Let's say then that there is something where the artwork is out there being shown, but you want to also talk about your relationship with ODETTA, which can happen. I would ask that, again, just keep me in the loop. It's always good to talk to you. It's always good to be up to date with where your work is and how it's going for you. But I would say if you wanted to credit ODETTA because you showed the work with me, then I would tell you the language for that, which would be basically courtesy of ODETTA, or something to give the gallery a nice little shot in the arm out in the world as you're moving it through other exhibition sites. Some artists, when they have the work on view and they ask me to temporarily take it down, we can unlist it, relist it. We just put it on hold. One thing that I will tell you is that it is very rare for me to sell a work online that hasn't been online for quite some time. It is not a bad thing to build an inventory on this site or even with me on First Dibs.
Mm-hmm.
I would suggest that once it's there, it's working for you harder than you would ever be able to do in physical space, and just to let it work for you.
Mm-hmm.
It's behind the scenes. And when a sale comes through or an inquiry, 9 times out of 10, those works have been on view for 3 to 5 years now. I've
Wow.
had work on view on First Dibs now. I've had it on view since 2015. And I get people looking at those listings all the time. And the organizers that run those businesses say, the more inventory, the more likely you're making money selling artwork. So get thousands on there if you can. Artists have a tough time hearing that because they want to be exclusively acknowledged in a rarefied kind of a setting so that
All about us.
so that it's really identifiable, your connection to this gallery. But that doesn't necessarily result in sales. And so artists consistently say to me, as exclusive as I had it back with ODETTA, they would turn to me and say, you got to get this sold for me. I need money. And it would be fresh out of the studio, brand work, gorgeous. We picked it together. They made it specifically for ODETTA. I mean, it's a joyful experience handling work like that with an artist. But then to expect to get that sale is difficult because I'm an artist running a gallery. I did not build my Rolodex in the 80s, running a gallery. I came at it in 2014 and opened a gallery, and I'm building my artisan roster now. So, you know, I think that the guarantee for sales exists online for me. And when I showed with ODETTA and started working with a lot of other gallerists, they hated First Dibs. First Dibs was taking their business away from them because it was now creating this equalizing factor that they were no more exclusive than me. And
Mm-hmm.
they had 26 years of background, but First Dibs created this sort of equalization. So a lot of those gallerists would say, I can't stand First Dibs. I won't work with First Dibs. And I was like, I would be dead in the water without First Dibs. And they would look at me and go, what? I'm like, hey, nobody knows me. They don't. This is the only way they're going to see my artists from California, if they're in California,
Right. Right.
so, or the UK, so I really believe that this is a good place for us to build our portfolios. And as long as we have an affordable outlet like this through a network, I really think that it's one of the best things I can offer anyone. And
Mm-hmm.
so, when a sale happens, I get the inquiry from the gallery manager on Shim. So she reaches out to me, and she's a young woman in the UK. I don't get to talk to the buyer, and I don't get their direct contact information. It's obscured, but we can start to talk about pricing, and the Shim artsy fee structure took a big change. And I think it happened around June or April this year. And Artsy is really the gallery on record now. So they charge tax, they handle a processing fee, and Shim no longer does that. So Artsy took the reins from Shim and any other gallery, and they want to handle those sales in-house. So that was a big transition. So if you have, I pulled up let me just share a screen for a second. rid of this. Oh, I tell you, Zoom just drives me nuts anymore.
I know.
Don't get out of the way. Hang on. I don't know how to get
Oh,
this.
I see a Joanne Matera.
Yeah, that's my Google Chrome. I don't know how to push this thing out. Let me just see if I can. Okay, I'll just see if I can get it behind. Can you see this?
Yeah, I can. I'm just, yeah.
Okay, so the artsy formula now for artwork, if it's $1,000 piece, it's going to get raised to 1,100 online. And this still doesn't seem right to me. So I'm still working with this. There will be a tax that will be charged, and we have to pay it. So if I sell a work of art and you give me a base price of 1,000, we need to charge the client tax and have that added to the 1,100. So when it gets listed, it would be somewhere closer to $1,200 on the listing, or 1,300 to accommodate the tax. The artist then goes and gets the shipping quote for the work of art and any packing. And from there, we add that to the cost for the collector. And if they agree to everything, then you'll hand me, after you've packed and shipped it, and off it goes, you would send me a copy of the receipt with the tracking number and the price. And then we walk away, hopefully no less than that original price of 1,000. We get the tax paid, and I pay you back the shipping, and there's a 5%, which is what you're seeing here, general processing fee that Artsy gets paid. So my goal is always, for any listing that you hand me, if it says 900 or 9,000 on a work of art, I'm hoping that my communication and setting the price with the buyer keeps us at that point.
Okay. I have to give somebody at my door. I'll be right back. I think they're delivering a package.
Okay.
Sorry. Thank you. All right. Bye. Sorry. Are you there?
Yep.
Yeah. They're very friendly here when they deliver things from the UPS. So I just want to, so the artist does not pay the shipping. That's somehow folded into this.
It's added on. That's an add-on.
Okay, that I wanted to know.
And so you get that quote.
Okay.
And you know, you might guesstimate it. And since you're about to go through a situation where, you know, you really don't, you can't handle the stress of getting a quote on shipping, stuff like that. You need to maybe find a friend like Emily or somebody that, should that happen, could access that work, you know, for you.
Well, I'm only going to send pieces that I've done up here, so that they're my other question, which maybe I'm not sure if it's if we're off topic, but I know I saw the list of those of us that are in good standing, and I think what you meant was the $70 that we had sent you, and I'm wondering, I can't even remember when you know, and it's for 1 year, is that
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I'm not sure when my due date's up.
Well, I apologize for what happened this past year. We ended up with some really unique opportunities to travel the work. And so
Right,
I kept pushing our current show. I just kept pushing the date, hoping that we had the next space all determined, and it hasn't been. So I finally said, look, I just have to open the next show. These artists have had their work for this first show, Entry Point. They've had it there now for 7 months, 8 months. So I need to move us along. So that two pieces that you sent me, or three, I'm sorry, for Entry Point. Let's just see here.
Manter. Right. Okay.
Right.
I don't know what that is, but
This was the PDF.
oh, okay.
Right. So you're a new member as of January. This was your
Okay.
first show with us. So you're good until next year.
Okay.
Yeah. So and then I have these two in my
Right.
possession. So okay. So we'll run this next show through February 15th.
Right.
You'll start hearing me in January talking about membership renewals.
Okay.
But when you fill out the Jot form link that I gave you a few weeks ago to upload your images, there's a section at the bottom of the Jot form that says, I'm a returning member, fully paid, so you'll check that box.
Okay. Yeah, I've just briefly looked at that form. I'm going to put my sights on it this week and do it, but okay.
Yeah, it's all due on the 7th.
Right.
Let me just see if I could pull up that Jot form.
And the 7th is right around the corner.
Yeah, try and get it done this weekend.
Yeah,
is my recommendation.
Yeah.
So yeah, let me see where that went.
Well, I'm very impressed by the fact that you're not only a working artist, but you're doing this as well. Not to mention going between states and all that you do.
Yeah, well, thank you. I like the fact that I'm able to travel now to be a more active part of my family while my mom is with us. I mean, that's just a gift. So I figured it out. It took the pandemic to help me get there. So, I really want to use this time wisely. Here we go. I think I've got a link right here. Yeah, so this is the Jot form. And you're pretty familiar with this now because you've done, the Aqua Miami, and you've done a regular exhibition. So at the end of this form is, you're agreeing to terms. I am currently enrolled. That's your box to check.
Okay, that's pretty easy.
Yeah. We will be doing more opportunities like Aqua, and I know Peter's still working on getting things to travel more. So some of those opportunities will be like Aqua. They'll have a travel component, they'll have a different grouping, and they would cost for that entry to join in on that. But we seem to be hovering in the neighborhood of $25 to $45 for some of these upcoming upload invitations. And again, that work then lives on Artsy until you insist that you no longer want it there. Keep it there. Let it be a part of your portfolio. And people say, well, I don't want too much, or I don't want stuff that's too old. And I'm like, Ed Ruscha has like 1,400 listings on Artsy.
Wow.
If it works for him, it works for me. That's just kind of
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
my opinion. I admire him greatly. So if he's happy there, I'm happy there.
Yeah.
So the other part to the sales is that it is something too where people look for discounts and they sometimes lead with asking for a discount. If it's more than 10%, I'm going to reach out to you and I'm going to say, hey, I'm in this conversation. I don't know the buyer yet, but they are looking for a deeper discount. So if you'll remember that price chart where you started the piece at $1,000, hypothetically, I'm still trying to not get too far beneath that for you. I really am, because I think that we can still present a discount on a small level, but not on a big level. So again, that's really something that you can help me decide. And then that gallery manager in the UK, Natasha, she would get back to the buyer with a price and a quote on shipping, that kind of thing.
And I know pricing is individual, but do artists ever reach out to you to get recommendations in terms of what price might be appropriate? Is that something? Because
Sure, you're welcome to. Any artist is welcome to get my opinion. I will preface it by saying that it's hard to put a set formula on that. As you know, pricing is so much, there's so many factors, like in a regular gallery setting. If the artist is well known or the gallery is well known, then there's a different price associated for that artist for as compared to an artist that's lesser known. So it's hard for me to not to give you a set answer, but one of my questions back is, what have you sold so far? What are the price points based on that? Let's try and play around in that area and see how we do.
Okay.
But like, let's say you say, I've had this work online now for 4 years and it's not moving. I'd like to adjust the prices. If we adjust those prices for you, understand that, all of the other parts to that, the tax and the processing, will also be removed from it. But it's your job to announce that, hey, I just wanted to remind you of this great set of paintings that I have a suite on Artsy, and to tag the image and so on. Tagging the images is really important. I don't know if you're doing that yet, Nancy.
I don't think I am.
Okay, so now I'm on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and Instagram, I've found when I worked with Artsy as ODETTA without a network and pre-Instagram, I had no activity. But now what we try to do with everybody is get us all launched on Instagram at the same time to announce our show. It's as if we walked into an opening together and we saw each other and we're promoting our show together. So I'll be sending out a list of the caption and how I want it to read. And I'd like everybody to follow along as if we are in lockstep together in person. And we'll do the same caption and the same hashtags together. And I'll be working on that for our launch on the 14th. But in addition to the caption, like, here's a caption that I did just for the call for our upcoming show. People were a little bit confused about what I meant by the nature of things or nature's way. And so I just wanted to talk about nature, that it is not, it's not only the things that we walk past outdoors that are growing from the ground up or flying in the air. It's also an internalized aspect of how you think about things and how you unpack them. So I put that into the description, and then I did a few hashtags.
Okay.
And
then
yeah.
Go ahead. Well, I was going to say, and then below boost post, I've never done that. I mean, I'm on Instagram.
I've never done it. That would be a fee.
Okay.
I've never done it, but you should on Instagram set your settings that you're a professional
Mhm.
business setting, so that you can look at the analytics of who goes to your pieces and so on. But the
Okay.
tagging is within the image itself. Like when you're posting, there's this little figure here, right? Okay, so that if you click on it or you click into the image itself, it's going to tell you where to go to find more work by this artist. Click on the image. So when you're setting your post, if you click into your image as you're setting it up, it will allow you to type in your tags.
Okay.
The tags should be your site on Instagram. The tags should also be artsy. It should also be ODETTA Gallery and Shim Art Network, so that any way that we are offering the sale of your piece, you know,
Uh-huh.
you're helping steer someone there. Now, I also encourage artists, and you'll see this as I set up the instructions for next week as we get ready for the launch. I also instruct artists to go ahead and put the price on their work. And that would be the published price that shows up on Artsy when the show is now launched, which Natasha will get that launched probably 2 days before the 15th. We'll be able to start seeing what the price actually is listed for your work, so that $1,000, artwork will now be 1,300, something like.
Okay.
People are really queasy about posting prices. But
Was that a Jane? The one before? No.
no, that's Jeff Becker, and it's a
Ah,
photograph.
okay. I
That's
was going to
a great
say,
guess.
looks like Jane, but not really.
Yeah, yeah. So when you post your price, it happens in the same label information that you would have given me for your image. You don't have to make a big deal about it. But my web designer, she's young, she's in her 20s. And I asked her, I said, what do you think? Put the price or not? And she said, for me, if it says DM me for more information, you've now lost my trust. Like, I know you're trying to somehow manipulate things so that I'm not getting to the price. She said, we like to see the price. Either we want it or we don't, but her generation, it's just put the price there. Don't make me hunt and peck. So again, we've got sort of a transition that's going on in how people do business as artists, but we're working on it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I wouldn't have done that, but I'm glad we talked about it because it
Yeah.
makes sense. People don't want to take the time to have to search around, and you're right. Then you lose them.
Also, you think that they might have sticker shock, but 9 times out of 10, they just wanted to know. They're
Yeah.
not shocked by anything, so go for it. I always say to people, when Sotheby's has an amazing auction price on a work of art, they have no qualms about letting you know that price.
That's for sure.
So why are we so queasy?
I think that's one of the things that going to school and going to art school, we never really learned. We didn't learn the business of art.
Right.
Perhaps now it's a little bit more included in the curriculums, but boy, I came out knowing nothing.
Same here. And I was scared of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was scared to make mistakes and do the wrong thing. And I don't know. I very quickly met up with a group of artists. This is my first job, had me in Mississippi, and we just created a very active community and took the reins, for ourselves, and had so much fun doing it, and got known instantly, and got work placed in local cultural centers, collections, and so on. And I realized very early on that I can sit there and be paralyzed by fear and be afraid that I'm doing the wrong thing. And let me tell you, I'm shy. I won't approach a gallery. I'm very shy. But I think that there's just nothing wrong with being in charge of your career.
Yeah. Well, I think there's always been a stigma about talking about art and talking about money at the same time. And that is, something that we, especially some of us of a certain age, have been having to wrestle with, for our whole career. And it's, but not not the youngins. If you watch the youngins, they know how to do it. They know how to work the social media.
And they are our collectors, because we're doing work that sprouted in the 70s and got really worked out in the 80s and 90s. And they really love that kind of imagery for their collections. So I think that, we're still in good company. But to get ourselves onto the platform that they're using makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Well, it's a learning curve, no matter what age.
I think that's why we're all in it. But anyway, so let's say now the artwork has been sold and it's been shipped, and the buyer now sees it in person for the first time, and they are not as in love with it in person. I do allow a return policy of 7 days. They have 7 days to view it in person. And if they don't get back to me, and at that point through the Artsy platform, I know the buyer, we're connected directly by that point. So they would need to let me know, and the work is returnable. So I do choose not to post when a work is sold until that buyer has had it for 7 days or more. And I also hold your payment until after I've gotten past that approval point. And I do want to make sure the buyer's happy. So I do reach out and ask them, are you happy? Anything I can answer for you, whatever, because I might get that buyer back. I might get that buyer back for a Nancy Manter again and again. Did want to say also that one of the reasons why I'm so happy with this system is that once Instagram showed up and the art fairs, the notion of a rarefied dealer that helps you build a collection and only that dealer, a lot of collectors just went right around. As soon as Instagram showed up, I just said, that's the lid in the coffin for me. They don't need me anymore. Well, collectors do. They do have a lot of questions, and it is still important to build a relationship. But they also have their own ways of finding artists and buying artwork, and they're very adept at it. And so if you sell a work of art and it's done outside of my purview, but I had it listed on Artsy with you, then I would ask for a slight commission on that sale for having helped you publish it at that time, and all of this time that we work on things together. So it would be on an honor system, but you would need to do it because the work sold and it was listed on Artsy. So what we would do is list it as sold, and I would like to know what the selling price was for it, so you and I together kind of keep that discussion healthy about what should I price my work at? What are people buying my work for? If it's a studio sale and you're offering a deep discount, don't be afraid to tell me that. Just, we're in a conversation about this, and hopefully it's one that it moves around a little bit while we learn the ropes. But I would ask for a 10% commission kicked back
Okay.
to me on those sales. And I'm always just, for me, every sale is a miracle. And every time an artist reaches me for something that's sold without me knowing, and they say, hey, I sold this piece, and what do I owe you again? It's a miracle. It really is. It's just great. It's just great that people want to, keep me informed and keep us both healthy. So, that's the way that one would work.
Okay. Okay. Well, this is good because you've clarified a lot of things that I had questions about. And also I've, been part of your staple or whatever you want to call it for a short period of time. And I just hadn't, they were just questions about how do the finances work and how long do you keep a piece? And so you've answered those questions.
So here's a new one. Artists, sometimes they're done with this format, especially now that we're out of COVID more, and we've got this whole hybridization thing happening online and in person, and everyone's very excited about the in-person shows. Some artists say, I'm not going to renew my membership. I just found out that we don't need to take your work down. You won't be adding new work, but we would choose, if you want us to leave the portfolio up. Again, a membership thing with ODETTA Digital maybe didn't feel like the best thing on the planet for you, and you're ready to move on, and no harm, no foul, really. I consider this a moving train with a lot of compartments that we all can participate in, but you could choose to let us leave the work online. And if we did, if a sale came through, I would conduct it in the same way as before, and I would still take a 30% commission on that final sale price. So it could still benefit me, even though we weren't in a direct membership relationship together. So.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. And also there will be other opportunities, as long as Peter's inventing those, or he gets some of us to invent more travel opportunities and stuff. Those will still run like the Aqua Miami did. That was the first one I did last year. And then Berlin, where it was just a one event, opportunity, not a membership. But if you want to see your work travel, here we go, and for a much smaller fee, although I think $70 is as small as it can get to. But anyway, the fees are reasonable. They're artists, levels. And unlike a juried show, where your work may not get included in the show, with all of these events, your work gets published. So it's very democratic. I will be, as I relax more into this commute back and forth to Indiana and the online world and my own artwork, I do have a goal of putting together some more individualized shows. Some of those possibly in person, but speaking specifically about artsy, there are some shows I want to put together. Haven't had the time really to unfold it just yet, but I'm still thinking like a curator, just to put your mind at ease. There's nice combinations I see there. Like you just pointed out, the Jeff Becker and Jane Sangerman. I didn't see that. You did.
Really?
But I think, that's pretty great. That things like that. So you might get me into a conversation where I'm saying, hey, Nancy, I want to pair you with this artist. And what do you think about this artsy online show? And again, you would continue building your portfolio on artsy, which again, Ed Ruscha thinks 1,400 pieces is a good idea. So
That's amazing.
yeah. Look him up on Artsy. You'll
Oh
see.
boy.
So, do you have any other questions? Because I will be following up with an email that gives the list of captions and our timing for launching on the 15th.
I mean, I wasn't sure what my questions were going to be until we started talking. So, yeah, I think you've answered my questions.
Then I'm gonna stop the screen share, okay? Or the recording. Well, I'll do both. Here's my recording.